MTN SME Hub. Link to growth. Link to success. Link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. In studio with us today, we've got Piet Nel. He's the co-founder and managing director of Ergonomics Direct. And the issue that they are dealing with many South African companies are dealing with, is the imports, the cheap imports, and that generally decimates industries. And we're trying to deal with that here. So my last question to you, Piet, was around what business are you in? That was the question. And I think that's the most, from a strategic perspective, that's the most important question to answer. I get that you are, calling all pockets right now, whatever works. I get that. I respect that. I respect the hustle, and you're trying to find that out. But I think you need to get to the answer to that question sooner than later, because it is a fundamental strategic input in terms of what you work on and what you don't work on. So if you're in the consulting business, then the whole idea there is that you are all about productivity, right? So you productivity consultants, and the product is you focus on the ergonomics to create higher productivity. So the value proposition when you're going out there into a corporate, I'm not selling you chairs, I'm selling you productivity. How we get you there is almost irrelevant. Our focal area is the furniture that your staff are using. Here's the case studies, here's international, here's our local, we had company A, we measured their productivity before, we measured their productivity afterwards. There was 23 days sick leave before, there was 12 days sick leave afterwards. It works. Here's the proof. And so the things that you work on now are around that kind of strategy, because you see yourself as a consulting business around ergonomics and around productivity specifically. And the chairs are just an input, or the whole setup is just an input. If you are a product business, then it flips the script, because then it's about which products, which channels, and then it's about a channel strategy. It's about then having a person go out and look for all the referrals from the occupational therapists or the physios or the medical doctors, or all the different types of doctors that would be dealing with injuries that come from sitting badly or sitting all the time, all those kinds of things. So that would be a different strategy. So it would be a channel strategy. To run both at the same time, is possible in the beginning when you're small, but I would strongly suggest that you make a choice and then move in that direction. If I look at your website, it gives me the impression that you do both. So I don't know how to engage you. That's why I asked you what business you're in. Mm-hmm. I really didn't know, because you've got a bit of the consulting, you've got the chairs. It seems like, having been onto your website and then had all the remarketing come at me, it seems like you're really sussed at the marketing stuff. It feels like you're not novices at this. Mm-hmm. But I think you're at a critical juncture of making a choice of what type of business you're in. I just want to come back in the few minutes that I've got left around the consulting side. In the consulting arm, it's almost like creating a new product, because we'll come in and you can design that product in a different way. You can design that we'll come and do an audit for free. Okay, and we'll give you recommendations. We will guarantee a certain outcome at the end, and we can guarantee if we don't hit that, then here's what the guarantee is. Either you get X amount of money back, or whatever the case may be. In other words, you put your money where your mouth is. So you can see you're starting to develop consulting product that goes in that environment. What you're going to probably find, if you follow that route, is that there will be a broader scope of inputs into getting that productivity, and then you'll become not just an ergonomist, you'll become a productivist, like it'll be all around productivity that relates to ergonomics specifically. Like it's all about that. So you'll start to build out product sets in that. And then, of course, your market is the corporate market. But if you're knocking on the door in the corporate market and you're saying, I want to come talk to you about chairs, how much are your chairs? Yeah. Yeah. What are your brands? We buy from, this big brand already. Hard to get in. If you're saying, I'm knocking on the corporate door and saying, I'm coming to talk to you about productivity out of your workforce that's sitting all day, okay, then it's a different conversation. You happen to put the chairs in. And I think, just personally, if I were to invest in a business like yours, I would move that way. I think it's an easier way to get into a corporate market if you want the corporate market. If, on the other hand, we go down to what business am I in? I'm in the business of product. Then it's all about, I need to sell as much product, and then it's about dominating the channels, right? And so you are all the channels, and you've got channel partner agreements with commission structures in place, and you just own the channels. And then it's about building a workforce. It might start with you and your partner to start off with, to start doing that, and then building a workforce to go and basically approach all these professionals, and that's the whole strategy. It feels very different, right?
Yes,
and,
it does.
And the kind of energy to get that off the ground is a lot of energy.
It does.
That's why I'm saying you've got to choose, even though it feels like you can do both. And in the beginning, of course, you're not going to say anyone who says, I want to buy a chair, and you say, I'm a productivity guy. Sorry, you're not going to turn that away. But it's just about what part of the business that you start to build out. And then the last piece is that I would move more and more about my thinking in both those contexts to exclusivity, trying to find product that is quite exclusive. So right now, your mental model is that it's chairs and perhaps desks and footrests and all the ancillary stuff. But there might be, my instinct is that if you're thinking productivity, there might be other things. For example, lighting, right? Might be increased productivity, in terms of what type of lighting goes with what. So now all of a sudden you've got lighting. I'm just using an example.
It's a good example.
I'm not a productivity person, but it might be that it's lighting or things like that, or even it might go to the coffee machine, and or layout in terms of how fast I can move to go to the toilet or to the coffee machine, those kinds of things. So it opens up your whole world. So that's what I think your big decision for you and your partner is to make over the next couple of months. I hope that's given you something to think about.
Yeah, very much. Thank you very much. That was very insightful.
Well, I hope that's given you some things to think about. What business are you actually in? And once you decide it, then you're going to think about it, and then you're going to make it a reality.
The Big Small Business Show, proudly sponsored by MTN Business.